What was I like before the world took hold of me? Before I stopped being a person in the world and became a person of it? Before prejudice, religious dogma, and social norms? What was I like before all of this? When I just was unencumbered, untainted. Now the roots are a part of me, and I have to wonder, what was I like before? And how do I get back there? Is it even possible to shake off the ways in which the world has influenced me, changed me? Can I go back? Can I step into the world boldly like the moment I was born, in only natural glory, untouched? If I can reclaim that part of myself, will I finally become whole within myself, at peace within me? What was I like? And who am I capable of being? This is This ShXt Open, a story podcast about coming into who you are while accepting the things you cannot change. This is the finale. I speak as Sebastian. He, my male presenting side, is out front for you to see. I am speaking directly to you as my audience. You are in the pews as I have been called to share my message, my revelation. It is time. This is Sebastian Walks. The mood in the chapel was gray, all warmth and color pressed out from the heavy weight of bodies filling the room. There were worn and tattered hymnals stacked in the back compartments of each row. 3 dark, indistinguishable silhouettes sat face forward across the first row of pews. You are seated right behind them. The silhouettes gave off an aura of confusion, concern, an air of frustration. No one knew what was to come. Their presence stretched fully across the small relic church. Its walls held up antics symbolizing the rigid traditional rules of order. A hierarchy of power that should never be questioned, no matter the cost of silence. The silhouetted men in the front pew were arbitrators of these 1,000-year traditions. The pillars of my communities, churches, of all institutions of power. I used to be proud of that unbroken lineage instead of belief systems. Proud to look up to the forebearers and leaders, those silhouettes, who walk effortlessly in their faith and philosophies. One day, I had hoped to travel in their shoes and stand boldly, righteously as they did. The silhouettes, at one time, garnered my complete respect and admiration. Surely they would never lead me astray. The church was filled with antebellum relics of years past. The tall square doors, the warped stained glass windows, and welted wooden walls displayed an old character, a lineage that permeated each old tradition, aesthetic and political. However, their centerpiece, the showstopper, was the altar. In front of the floor-to-ceiling organ pipes that huffed and puffed, there was an old hand-carved mahogany wooden pulpit etched from the thickest portions of a fir tree. One of a kind, with each curve and crevice articulating old Roman scriptures and African parables. This altar was a place only fitting for someone special, someone called to lead. I stood flat center above the likeness of the dark silhouettes in the pews. Dim streaks of light broke through the window crevices, leaking light, soft, angled light about the pulpit's base. My lower frame was swallowed up into the girth of the wooden pulpit. My mood mirrored the likes of the very silhouettes positioned in front of me. I shared the same wave of confusion, frustration, and concern. In front of me was a small leather-bound book that simply said, "The Book of Life." Glancing up at you and the silhouettes directly in front of me, I then flipped to an earmarked page where scribbled inside the margins read, "Your strength must come from within."
I am on a personal journey, the one we all find ourselves on at critical points, sometimes in our lives. Often the journey is lonely, quiet, intimidating. Only you and your thoughts, alone and purposeful. This is my path towards truth. A reflection of it even will be enough to shine brightly amongst the dark crevices inside my chest, bringing light to the parts inside my heart that have long since been shadowed. I want to be awake. I want my heart to stretch until my very soul squints and focus. But it stings. There's an honest uncomfortability in owning it, seeing it, accepting it, my truth. I lost myself along the way. I got so good at double wrapping myself in unfitting caricatures, the ones others could acknowledge and accept. I'm on a journey to find the bits of me I've wrapped away for their comfort. It was never about my well-being and happiness. It was a need to control me, a need to maintain their status quo, a need to protect their hierarchy and artificial orders of nature through invasive grooming. I allowed my own free thinking to be overshadowed for the good of the church, for the good of society writ large, for the good of the family. To not be me is to bring good. My personal well-being was never considered. I was to bend, contort, shrink in order to fit into these boxes which were affectionately referred to as my place. And for a while, I wanted it to be my place. I wanted to be their version of normal, worthy of their praise. But it meant more than not drawing attention. It meant to not be me. My very existence, my nature, crossed lines and boundaries that they swore were wrong. To exist as I am, as I was, in their communal body was to disrupt the whole system. Because one sin does not equate to one mistake. A single sin, a single person outside of the line, threatens everything. One brick out of place, and the whole structure can fall down overnight. In nature, rigidity in the form of straight lines, equidistant shapes like squares, doesn't exist. Polarity is a part of a whole, which includes a long middle called nuance. Like a grayish flow between the poles, black and white, cold or hot, male or female. This flow consumes nature, and it's what makes it both beautiful and scary, captivating and daunting. Yet for them, the Trinity, flow and fluidity, nuance, is stripped away for neatness, for purity, by forcing unnatural parameters they have for generations attempted to make the unruly ruled, the unclear clear, the unpleasant pleasant. This is by far the worst form of control. Yet the Trinity has perfected this deed to create a perfectly scripted world, safe for them, for me, for others. It's the least safe place to be. The price I will have to pay if I stay is that Sebastian will forever remain hidden, tucked away in the shadows of desires and dreams and truths that only exist between my ribcage. Sebastian, gone, dead. But I will have the Trinity's utmost support, their love, their community. I will be nestled in with them, a mockery of safety, but one that feels as warm as if it was true. If I leave, Sebastian will survive. He'll be better appreciated and live a transparent life with a stronger sense of self, a peace of mind, a completeness. He'll survive. He'll prevail. This is my dilemma. I have to walk this thin line trying to live on both sides and straddle two different worlds. To stay, to leave, to live, to die. It fights against my very being to need both. No nuance here, any more than there. I thought Shay and Sebastian could not coexist, that I must be one or the other. I wanted the appraisal and validation more than self-love and self-acceptance. Where does the power of the Trinity emanate from? How did it get that power? To lord over my existence? With the rules and guidelines making up not only how I move through the world, but why and as who? Where was I when the decision board tapped the table for the approved dogma that would influence and shape my quality of life? Who was at that table? Who made you Lord of me? And why must I listen? The Trinity is my community, my church, my family. It is life. It is law. And it is unfaltering. It is the powers that be, even those that brought me up, my elders. I learn from my own experience that the Trinity seeks conservatism and predictability. It needs it. It demands it to rule over law and body. The Trinity seeks simple truth, routine, and unfascinating happenstance. And when something different or uncommon does take form, it disrupts the whole system. Disruption is met with distrust, and with distrust there is destruction. The Trinity reacts with the speed and the fear to systematically undo, cut, trim, erase, damage. Doesn't matter or what or who or how. Only that it cuts, that it destroys, that it remains unfalteringly in charge. It quickly labels that thing as unpure, uncommon, unruly, when really, it is only unknown. These intentions are initially hidden under the guise of love and care. Resistance is met with punishment, a cost better than being ostracized, to be left out alone, on your own, ousted out of the group. This group that you've given everything to be a part of. It is unfathomable. So you protect yourself. You conform. You have to survive. Even at the expense of hiding who you are, your natural state. And for many of us, we stay here in this purgatory, shades away from hell, but not all that different after all. And those of us who break out and find ourselves alone, are agonized by a world forever lost. For so long, I thought it was all power. For so long, I thought the Trinity held the answers, that they knew right from wrong, good from bad. They kept me in line, so they must know what's on the other side of that line, right? They taught me what was expected of me, so I trusted them. But now I wonder, was my blind trust worth it? Is it possible that my truth weighs just as much as their pound of truth? Is it possible that there is more than one way to be right? I was indoctrinated to lead a life I could not honestly uphold nor sustain. Any questions were hushed. Any concerns were silenced. My quiet and sheepish nature gave in to the overwhelming attenuation of signals bearing down from the Trinity. So I complied. I left Sebastian. I walked away from him, leaving him alone in the shadows, a place of forgotten souls where countless tattered, strewn minds are thrown away. Living a hollow carcass as I walked through life, Sebastian was banished. That carcass, a porcelain mask I donned each day as I stepped out the house. It made people smile and feel like they knew me. It made me exemplary in church and my community. I was trusted among my group. It made me safe. A cycle of need grew between myself and the Trinity. They would demand I would try, but I could never shrink quite enough, conform quite enough. This endless pursuit of false happiness and validation from those who couldn't even see me brought depression, frustration, and contempt into my heart. I was never good enough. I was a ball of error, a human mistake. And then it finally clicked. The Trinity was not all powerful, all consuming. They had my power, and I could take it back. I realized the sadness and the feelings of inferiority was driving my attempt to please, to conform, not by myself, as a person. I realized that my source of self-doubt hung at the feet of the Trinity, and with that, I knew that my self-acceptance could only come from within, not the Trinity. So I walked away from it all that I knew. The source of perpetual angst, my trepidatious happiness, my confliction. I walked. I left for a journey to find my own voice, reconnect with my own truth on my own path, searching for who I am and how I get there.
I no longer want to hide Sebastian and all that he represents in me. My masculinity, my sapphic passion, my strength and power.
So I stand before you in my truth. Here I am.
I know a coach that used to say, sometimes you must go backwards before you can go forward. In reflection, back to my younger years, I was challenged to open the box, and in doing so, it has allowed me to walk forward in greater clarity. My relationships with my parents are stronger. I have a higher sense of self and more pride in who I've become. I have come into who I am while finally accepting what was never broken in the first place. Me.
Thank you for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this story podcast. Do me a favor. Check out the links in the description box. They will take you to my webpage, ShaylaDPotterMedia.com, or YouTube, and I would love for you to leave your feedback. Thank you.
Editing on this episode from Chelsea Sutton and Shay Potter. Sound design and mix by Nathan Maughan. Music in this episode is Hymn for Reason by Patrick Smith. Solace by Keith Anthony Holden. Our theme song is by Blue Dot Session. Please check out more at our website, ShaylaDPotterMedia.com. That's ShaylaDPotterMedia.com. Crack This Shit Open is owned by Be Better Media Productions Company. Finally, the art and photography created for this project by Grace Perkins, Brandon Baker, and Ada Elisa. Grace and Ada created the illustrative art, and Brandon made the photographs and videos. Silent contributors, Angela Renee Bennett, friends and mentors. Thank you.